Hey guys, just wanted to. I think I'm gonna start doing some tech information type videos. So I'm running into a lot of problems with iPads that are activation logged. Or actually just just dumb things that Apple does with iPads. It's when you see it from Apple's perspective, it's all by design. Activation lock's a great feature since what it does, you sign into an Apple account and then with the Find My feature, it will permanently lock that iPad to that account until it's been signed out of, or you remove it from the account. So you'll get iPads from like businesses and stuff that they're just like, yeah, it's a little bit too much of a hassle for us to sign out of that. Just recycle it. And I have a perfectly good iPad here that I legitimately just can't use. Um, we'll sometimes pull the screen off and use the screen for something. If the battery passes diagnostic tests, we'll sometimes pull the battery out and put another iPad to refurbish it. But like as far as the logic board though, it's dead. We can't do anything with it, which is sad. You know, you have this perfectly working piece of technology and I can't do anything with it. It's basically a paperweight. I think this is just one of the looks like a 5th gen iPad. I haven't even looked that up, but it is a cellular one, so that brand new this would have cost at least $400. I'm not sure the storage because couldn't get into it. So this is literally just a lamp, and that's all it's good for, is to just have it on the hello screen and use it as a lamp now, which is sad. Some of the other stuff that Apple does that's anti-competitive in nature is they will the replacement cost of like an iPad is stupid. So this is the iPad servicing guide that Apple provides us. So under Apple Care, it's actually a really good deal under Apple Care because it's $50. No matter what the problem is, you can have it replaced for $50 with a 2-year span, or yeah, 2 years. But if you're out of warranty, like an iPad Pro 12-inch, you're spending $700 almost. And that's totally by design. Apple does like 70% of the cost of a brand new one, and then that's how they motivate you to just get a new one, so they don't have to deal with you with your broken iPad. Because these things are not fun to repair. You have to heat up the glue that's adhesive against the screen, and then pull it off carefully. As a third party, we have to be careful because if we rip that home button, you don't have Touch ID anymore because that's paired to the main board. We can get fake third party ones, but the fingerprint reader part's not going to work anymore. And even like third party displays, like the third party digitizers and stuff, they don't feel right. Like they're definitely cheap, and you can always tell. The thickness of the glass isn't as good. The quality of the glass isn't as good. Home buttons will always feel like spongy because we have to literally rip off. No. And you have to literally rip off the home button and then re-glue it to the other iPad. And sometimes that's not an easy process. You have to super glue it in some cases and clamp it in place. And then the other thing they did is the screen. The cheaper ones, the screen's separate from the LCD. So when the glass breaks, it's actually you just swap out the glass. The glass only thing the glass holds is it's the digitizer. So you have to actually take half the whole iPad apart, put that all back together, and then just reseal it essentially. There's two problems with that: is dust and fingerprints. If they're underneath the glass, you have to have those removed. So you have to make sure you're in a clean environment for that. And then the other problem that you run into is like if it was hit on the corner significant enough, you have to actually there's tools where you can actually pry the corner out of the way, but like it still might not sit right. So that's a problem that we run into a lot when we're refurbishing these or just repairing them for people. So Apple just makes these things really difficult to fix for no reason. Um, it's frustrating when you tell somebody, yeah, it's gonna be $600 for us to fix this, or you can just go buy a new one. Um, I mean, heck, the original iPad Pros are the same exact features second gen and the first and second gens iPads. They're the same exact specs basically as the $330 iPad. So if you want the same exact specs, basically, you can go just get a regular iPad to replace it for $300 instead of spending $450, unless there's a really good reason. Um, the only reason why I can see that this pricing for the out of warranty fee makes sense is if um, if you have a really highly spec'd one, like the new iPads. They have like 1 terabyte versions and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly why you'd be wanting to have a terabyte of storage on there unless you're on the go a lot. Um, but like, let's see. Oops, that's the original iPad. So let's do an iPad Pro. But yeah, if you had like a 12-inch iPad Pro and then 1 terabyte of storage, that's $1,500. Then 1,600 for cellular. I can tell you that that 1 terabyte is something that's always frustrating me with Apple's. They're like, yeah, we're just going to charge you $500 for a 1 terabyte drive. You're like, that's just an SSD. That's a $100 upgrade. But that's Apple for you. They always want to upgrade it. Now, if it did things like they did with their previous iPad Pro, where they gave you more RAM for it, like so you can actually do proper video editing and stuff on it, then I could see it. But I'm running into a problem with my iPad. I have one of the original iPad Pros um, that I use the drawing app called Procreate. I'm limited on how many layers I can have because of how much RAM the iPads have, and they max out at 6 GB, which is unfortunate because they actually lock out 2 of that gigabytes for the operating system, and then so that developers only get 4 GB to work with. So if you're working with really big files or a lot of layers, and at least the drawing app I use, you just don't get that many. If I do like a 4K file, I can get maybe 50 layers. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but if I want to do a multiple layered piece, it definitely adds up quickly. If I'm doing animation stuff, it can definitely eat up a lot of storage. The funny thing with iPads though is, so if your iPad's running slow or having issues, you can honestly go in and just get your iPad fully replaced just by telling them the battery's swelling. My iPad Pro is actually having issues right now with the swollen battery. It's making it so the touch doesn't work properly. And usually you can tell if it's swollen, but if you take basically 2 fingers and then when you squeeze the screen, you'll actually see like a complete line of or screen distortion or pixel distortion that's happening because of the battery that's in there. So with my iPad, I'm having problems right in the middle, dead center right now because it's pressing against the screen so much that it's making it so my Apple Pencil doesn't work very well, if at all, in the middle of the screen. So I can legitimately go get my iPad replaced for $100. Um, I'm trying to decide if I want to upgrade it to a new one, but that's, like I said, it's pretty expensive. Um, I might have to do some drawing stuff later on, but that's how it is right now. The other thing that's really cheeky that Apple doesn't tell you about is engravings. They're really not worth it for a couple of reasons. One, it lowers the resale value because who wants to have something that's been engraved? And two, if you want that engraving to stay on there, Apple has to repair your device, whereas most people, they can just swap out the unit. So your repairs and replacements will take a lot longer because of it. They usually give you the option to not worry about the engraving when you, if you have to ship it off to Apple, or if you go to the Apple store and it's like, I don't care about getting it repaired, just swap it out. Then they just disregard the engraving entirely. So that's a little trick that you can have. Let's see. Do they? Wow, I didn't realize this, but the Apple Pencil, you can actually get it repaired for $79. That's kind of dumb. Yeah, it's frustrating. They're a great machine, but they're not worth repairing in a lot of cases. Especially, I mean, if it's for a kid, then I mean, third-party displays and things like that is probably gonna be fine. My complaint has always been that these glass that third-party manufacturers put on there, a lot of cases, is very fragile. It's definitely not Gorilla Glass. I'm not even sure if the iPads have Gorilla Glass or not, but um, or not Gorilla Glass, but the hardness of Gorilla Glass, just like their iPhones. Um, they don't tout it that much anymore, so it's hard for me to know that specifically. I should probably research that one day, but yeah, it's frustrating as a person because I just want to have stuff working for people, but they don't allow the Apple stores or third-party stores to do the repairs in house for iPads. It's an automatic. Just get one from Apple, order one from them, and then we'll ship your old one back to them, and then they may or may not actually fix it. They might just recycle it and just rebuild it into something else because taking these things apart is not fun, especially when the glass is broken. I could see Apple having a lot of safety concerns with that, so they might just have companies part them out for them and then recycle them in some way. Like I know that they're using the solder, for instance, on their iPad on all devices now. The solder is what basically glues all the components on the board together. They're reusing a lot of that stuff because it has most likely because it has a low melting point compared to the other components like gold and silver and stuff like that. So they're able to just heat it up and then have it all basically drip off the board and then clean it up and then recycle it pretty easily. Whereas getting like the gold and copper and stuff out of these machines, it's not an easy process. I've seen videos about it online and it's just difficult. So yeah, that's my take on iPads. It's Apple's very good at what they do, and what they do is they sell you products. Um, and if you're dumb enough to break them, Apple knows exactly what you're going to do because they tout themselves as a premium product because people who tend to buy Apple stuff don't care about money as much. I'm seeing that with a lot with Mac stuff, and I'll have to go into the Mac stuff a little bit more later on. But iPads were the biggest irritation because I was wanting to fix this iPad, but it's activation locked and it's literally a brick. I can't do anything with it besides part it out, salvage some of the parts like the screen for another broken iPad. That if I have another broken iPad that's the same exact generation. That's why at the repair shop I'm at, we usually don't buy iPads because of the nature of people getting repaired by third parties. They don't sell very good because the resale is maybe within $50 or $100 of a brand new one. So like, why would you get an old one unless it's for a kid and you're looking for bottom dollar? And it's just usually not worth it to us to even deal with it. We're able to get better margins on an iPhone because we can replace the batteries, we can replace the screens, we can, there's a lot more options in terms of things we can do with them. So, yeah, sadly enough, but iPads are definitely just a landfill grab at this point.